Hi, this is Jonathan Rosenhead, the Jerusalem psychotherapist. This week's Torah and Psychology post, the passage of Vayishlach, we're going to look at the meeting between Yaakov and Esau. This is the moment after so many years where, after the breakdown in the relationship, after Yaakov seemingly taking, or the way that Esau interpreted it, stealing the brachas from him, this created this dynamic of really Yaakov had to run away for his life. Esau running after him, chasing after him, to try and kill him. And now we're getting to this point where it's a face-off. Yaakov and Esau are coming together again, and seemingly it's a meeting for war, for battle. That's what we see in terms of the preparation. Yaakov understands that he's coming up against his brother who wants to kill him. He needs to make the necessary preparations for battle, and splitting up his family into two different camps and getting ready in a strategic way to be ready to fight against Esau. But we know there are other steps that Yaakov took in terms of preparing for this meeting. Beyond just the battle, the war, there was also davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There was the aspect of prayer that we see in terms of the preparations, and there was also preparing all these gifts for Esau as well. So we have a three-pronged preparation or attack towards that Yaakov sent to Esau in preparing for this meeting. And what we can see here, as we learn, as Chazal point out, that Yaakov wasn't just preparing for war. He was also trying, in a way, to be flexible and try out different things in order to reconcile the relationship, in order to be able to appease to Esau and to find some way of reconciling the breakup in the relationship and to be able to join together. What we see here, if we look at this from a psychological perspective, this interaction here, this communication that's happening, really falls into the DBT, dialectical behavior therapy model of communication, of effective communication. Because depending on the context, people will try, obviously a person might have a certain goal, an objective that they are trying to achieve within the communication, but there's a way of doing it, and within the dynamics of interaction, there's a context we have to understand. Is the person focusing just on the end result that they want to communicate in a way that's effective in order to obtain and in order to achieve what they are looking for within this interaction, within this engagement with another person? Or is the focus on the relationship? Is the focus more on the relationship, that the end result, in terms of the concrete objective result that they're trying to get out of the relationship is out of the communication is less important, but rather what's more important is the relationship? Then the communication takes on a different flavor and a different expression. But there are certain, you could say, elements. There are certainly ingredients to the communication that DBT focuses on to create an effective way of communicating. So for this example, I think that we could say on one aspect there's an end that you could look at only on terms of the military aspect or the war fighting aspect, that the goal is for Yaakov to survive. And therefore the communication is being expressed in a certain way in order to obtain the goal of meeting with Esau and being able to survive and fight and win this interaction. But what's being added by Chazal is that it's not just the goal or the objective. There's also a relationship here. There's also a seeking a reconciliation between Yaakov and Esau, that the communication that's being expressed from Yaakov to Esau is trying to bring them together again. It's a focus on the relationship between two brothers. And therefore, if we look at the CBT ingredients, the elements that go into communication, there are the aspects that are brought up that are key parts of communication. So for one of them is that being able to express the communication, what you're trying to convey to the other person in a clear, assertive way. So we can see the preparations for war, in a sense, was Yaakov's assertiveness. He's trying to express and trying to prepare for this meeting in a clear, assertive way. Like, this is what I am doing. This I'm standing up for and protecting myself. So the assertiveness of being able to express and communicate your stance within the interaction is a very important part of the effective communication. So the preparing for battle, you could say, is Yaakov taking care of the assertiveness within DBT effective communication. Then there's also, especially in particular, if the relationship is the focal point, it's the focus of the interaction, then you want to make sure the other person feels understood, that the other person feels that there's something worthwhile within this interaction, that in a way that they are also being heard and being validated, and there's something in it for them as well. There's like in a way, it's like a compensation that if the other person listens, they gain from it as well. So apart from being assertive, Yaakov wanted to say, there's something in it for you as well. There's these gifts that I am giving to you. There's the validation. There's a certain making sure the other person feels heard and feels understood. That's in order to protect the relationship as well, to understand that I'm not doing this to be assertive and to have a fight, but because I want to have the relationship. Therefore, giving the gifts was also the additional important aspect of the DBT communication. And there's a third aspect that we can say in terms of prayer or davening to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, is also tapping into the values of Yaakov. He understands that what he did was right, or he understood that he from his perspective he was following the advice of his mother, Rivka, and he understands that this was from a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and he understands that a Kadosh Baruch Hu is there to protect him and to save him. He has strong values going into this communication and into this interaction. Therefore, so too, within the DBT framework, there's an aspect of knowing and keeping in your mind, holding your goals, holding your values, and not wavering from them within the communication that's assertive, and also understanding the perspective of the other person and validating. It's also important to keep within your mind, within the communication, and consistently being, you could say, committed to those values that you have within this communication. And that's the aspect of prayer that we could say that Yaakov prayed to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So what we see here within the DBT elements of communication, of effective communication, Yaakov was in a flexible way. He was trying out these different parts of the communication in order to effectively communicate with Esav, in order to prepare for this monumental and very important meeting with his brother. Have a good Shabbos and keep well.